Alright Steve, it seems to me that we made a lot of progress last time around.
Only if you consider it progress to have replaced the cute beetle with a guy who may or may not be the reincarnation of the fucking beast 666.
I know. This is all quite a shockaroonie to the system. At first, all of it seems mad as a goddamn hatter, but once you accept these ideas as actual possibilities, then suddenly, it's the rest of reality that stops making sense, and you begin to realize that everything you know is wrong.
Well, a few months ago I wouldn't have believed that there was a 10th freaking planet either, or that.
It's only the 9th planet, Steve. Don't forget that we so very rudely downgraded Pluto.
Oh right. So I guess Planet X should have more accurately been called Planet IX, but that wouldn't change the fact that the 300-foot-high tidal waves that it caused would have taken me completely by surprise if I wouldn't have received that certified letter informing me that I'd been chosen via lottery to be one of the survivors in this underground monstrosity. That's my point. After finding out that we were lied to about tiny details such as the fact that an extra fucking planet was going to mosey on past, deposit an enormous amount of shit in a very large fan, and turn me into freaking Omega Man, I'm pretty much open to just about anything after that.
It certainly seems as if the people in charge of the world are more than a bit ruthless and dishonest.
Agreed. Now can we get back to what the hell happened to Paul?
Alright, but can we agree to focus on one theory for the time being? Let's stick to the idea that James Paul McCartney underwent a death and rebirth ritual, and became Aleister Crowley, or the Beast 666. As an extra added bonus, we'll bring good old Charlie Manson along for the ride.
I'm all ears.
Okay. Well, we've already established that Kenneth Anger's film Lucifer Rising depicts a death and rebirth ritual in which Lucifer is reborn.
Right. And we've also talked about the fact that Lucifer Rising borrows lots of the death and rebirth symbolism from the Beatles' film Help.
Yes. But it does intend there. It also borrows imagery from the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour film. In fact, Lucifer wears an improbable black satin jacket with the word Lucifer spelled in rainbow colors, in exactly the same way that Magical Mystery Tour is spelled out on that album cover.
Jesus. I think we're going to need a bigger boat.
You're telling me, Steve. Now, we've also touched on the fact that Anger hired Bobby Beausoleil to play Lucifer. The problem was that he was never able to finish filming because he was too busy murdering Gary Hinman as a member of the Manson family. He was arrested for this a couple of weeks before the Tate LaBianca murders.
Okay. I remember that you touched on that before.
Let me ask you this, Steve. Who was the most famous person killed in the Tate LaBianca murders?
Well, I guess it's debatable, but I'm going to go with Sharon Tate.
That's a solid answer. Don't forget that Sharon Tate was very pregnant when she was murdered. Now tell me, who was Sharon Tate married to?
Roman Polanski?
Right. And what is Polanski's most famous film?
Probably Chinatown, but something tells me that you're trying to get me to say Rosemary's Baby.
I suppose you're right about Chinatown. But you're also right that I was trying to get you to say Rosemary's Baby. This is going to get a bit complicated, so put on your thinking cap.
Okay. Here goes.
Now you're ready. Rosemary's Baby was a film about an artist named Guy Woodhouse who sells his soul in exchange for success. As part of the bargain though, he also allows his wife Rosemary to be impregnated by the devil so that she may give birth to Lucifer's spawn.
I'm with you so far.
Rosemary is played by Mia Farrow, who coincidentally was one of the people who accompanied the Beatles to India in 1968, which is the same year that Rosemary's Baby came out. This was when most of the songs for the White Album were written. But back to the movie. After Rosemary is impregnated, the heads of the witches' coven in her apartment building begin feeding her poison in order to keep her sick, exhausted, and isolated. At this point an old friend begins to suspect that witchcraft may be at work and gives Rosemary a book called All of Them Witches. In one highlighted close-up of the book, we find out that witches often use the fungus called devil's pepper in their rituals.
Devil's pepper. Like Sergeant Pepper.
Exactly. And how long ago was it that Sergeant Pepper taught the band to play?
20 freaking years ago.
And Sergeant Pepper was released in 1967. Aleister Crowley died in 1947, which was 20 years ago, wasn't it?
Christ on a fucking cross.
Another thing to keep in mind here is that Crowley is featured prominently on the cover of Sergeant Pepper. He apparently began his occult life in earnest in 1904, while visiting the Egyptian pyramids. In a fit of automatic writing, he wrote the Book of the Law. He claimed that it was dictated to him by a spirit called I Was, who he said was the minister of Horus.
No fucking way.
No. Really.
That must be why one of the photos in the Magical Mystery Tour booklet shows Paul sitting at a desk with a sign in front of him that inexplicably says I was. You. It never made any sense until now, but it was a sly reference to Crowley's spirit writing partner I was.
Perfect. It would also explain why Paul's symbol later on became an eye of Horus, or the all-seeing eye.
Right. And let's not forget that Horus was a god king of Egypt, or a pharaoh.
And Rosemary was played by a woman named Pharaoh. Yes. There's also the matter of the odd liner notes that appear in McCartney's 2007 album titled Memory Almost Full, but at the moment, I'm so fucking hungry that I could eat that slop they serve at Outback Steakhouse.
I'd kill for a blooming goddamn onion.
Shut up, Steve.